Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, where we unravel the chilling truths hidden beneath the shadows. Tonight, we examine one of history's most infamous serial killers, Ted Bundy, a man whose charm masked unspeakable horrors. But here's your question. How did Bundy manage to escape from custody, not once, but twice? Stay with us, because the answer may shock you. Ted Bundy terrorized the United States during the 1970s, leaving behind a trail of fear and devastation. His victims, primarily young women, vanished without a trace until their remains were found in remote locations. His crimes spanned multiple states, and his ability to evade capture only deepened the mystery. It began with whispers of missing women, one after another, vanishing under eerily similar circumstances. The first hints of Bundy's reign of terror emerged in Seattle, Washington. Two women, Janice Ott and Denise Naslund, disappeared on the same day from Lake Sammamish State Park. Witnesses reported a man named Ted with his arm in a sling, asking for help. As weeks turned into months, reports flooded in. Young women across Washington, Oregon, and Utah were disappearing. Police initially struggled to see the pattern. No clear connection linked the victims, except one. All of them were last seen with an attractive, well-dressed man who seemed injured or in distress. The bodies, when they were found, painted a terrifying picture: brutalized, discarded, and hidden in remote areas. Then came the break investigators needed: a failed abduction in Utah. The woman escaped. She reported a man driving a Volkswagen Beetle. Police found the car. Inside, they discovered handcuffs, a crowbar, and rope. The name on the registration? Theodore Robert Bundy. But this was only the beginning. Ted Bundy's victims were more than just statistics. They were daughters, sisters, and friends. Each of them had dreams, ambitions, and futures that were cruelly stolen. Most of his victims were young women, often college students, intelligent and full of promise. They were studying to become nurses, teachers, journalists, and lawyers. Many were last seen in the most ordinary of circumstances, walking to their dorms, leaving a bookstore, or heading to a car after a night out with friends. Some, like Linda Ann Healy, were abducted from their own beds, vanishing without a sound. Bundy's ability to blend in was his greatest weapon. He did not appear to be the lurking predator that women were warned about. Instead, he seemed harmless, even likable. His tactic of pretending to be injured or in need of assistance played on the kindness of his victims. A simple request for help became the moment their fate was sealed. Many of Bundy's victims were taken during the daytime, in public places, in full view of others. Yet no one realized the danger unfolding before them. His confidence was chilling. He did not hesitate. He did not rush. He approached his victims with calculated ease, knowing that once they stepped into his car, there was no way out. The aftermath of his crimes was not only tragic for the victims, but for their families, who endured years of uncertainty, searching for answers that often never came. Some women remain missing to this day. Suspected Bundy victims, but with no bodies ever found. Their stories remain a haunting reminder. The most dangerous monsters are often the ones who hide in plain sight. Ted Bundy was, by all outward appearances, the last person anyone would suspect. He was charismatic, well-educated, and seemingly polite. His clean-cut image and confident demeanor allowed him to blend into society effortlessly, even as he committed some of the most horrific crimes in American history. Born on November 24, 1946, Bundy had what appeared to be an unremarkable early life, at least on the surface. He was raised by his grandparents under the belief that his mother was actually his sister, a revelation that some psychologists believe contributed to his later psychological instability. Though he was intelligent and socially adept, those who knew him recalled moments of unsettling behavior, including an unusual lack of empathy and an ability to lie with ease. Bundy attended the University of Washington, studying psychology before later enrolling in law school. He worked at a suicide crisis hotline, where he was ironically responsible for talking desperate callers out of ending their lives. His co-workers described him as calm, collected, and even caring, further proof of the dual life he led. He charmed professors, dated attractive women, and maintained a respectable image, all while perfecting the ability to manipulate those around him. But beneath the polished exterior lurked a remorseless predator. Bundy had a chameleon-like ability to adapt to his surroundings. He changed his appearance frequently, altering hairstyles, facial hair, and even his voice to evade capture. His intelligence allowed him to stay one step ahead of law enforcement, frequently moving between states and shifting his methods when needed. His confidence in his own cunning was boundless. Even after his arrest in 1975, he believed he could outsmart the system. He studied legal texts, represented himself in court, and even charmed judges, earning himself a disturbing level of admiration. Yet, for all his intelligence, his arrogance became his downfall. Bundy believed he was untouchable, a miscalculation that would lead to his capture. And it was his overconfidence that led to his daring escapes, and ultimately, his undoing. Ted Bundy's crimes were methodical, chilling, and calculated. His ability to blend into society masked the horrors he committed. Most of his victims were approached in broad daylight, a testament to his audacity. He often faked an injury, wearing a cast or using crutches, asking young women for help, carrying books, or loading something into his car. It was an act of deception, one that led many unsuspecting women to their deaths. Once a woman was inside his Volkswagen Beetle, the nightmare began. Bundy had removed the passenger seat to create more space, an ominous detail discovered only later. Victims were subdued, often struck over the head with a blunt object. From there, they were transported to remote locations, where Bundy's brutality truly emerged. Some victims were found bound with handcuffs, evidence of the sick control he exerted. Others were strangled with ligatures, killed in the most personal, deliberate way. He inflicted unimaginable suffering, sometimes keeping victims alive for extended periods before ending their lives. And in the most disturbing detail of all, Bundy was known to return to his crime scenes, sometimes days later. He would revisit his victims, sometimes applying makeup to their lifeless bodies, sometimes engaging in acts too horrific to describe. His need for control extended beyond death itself. His kill count remains uncertain. Bundy himself claimed responsibility for at least 30 murders, but investigators suspect the number could be much higher, perhaps over 100. One of the most terrifying aspects of Bundy's reign of terror was his ability to change his appearance. He altered hairstyles, facial hair, and clothing, making it nearly impossible for witnesses to identify him with certainty. Even when police sketches were released, he slipped through the cracks. But Bundy made mistakes. In August of 1975, he was pulled over for a routine traffic stop in Utah. Police discovered suspicious items in his car: handcuffs, a crowbar, and a mask. Though they lacked direct evidence linking him to any crimes, Bundy was arrested for possession of burglary tools, Authorities began connecting the dots, and the puzzle started to take shape. Victims across multiple states, the Volkswagen Beetle, the fake injuries, the undeniable pattern. But before they could lock him away for good, Bundy did the unthinkable. He escaped, not once, but twice. In his first escape, Bundy jumped from a courthouse window in Colorado, disappearing into the wilderness for 6 days before being recaptured. His second escape, however, was far more daring. In December of 1977, Bundy crawled through a small hole in the ceiling of his jail cell. He lost nearly 30 pounds to squeeze through, climbing up into the building's ductwork. From there, he slipped out, stole a car, and vanished. He resurfaced in Florida, and what happened next would seal his fate forever. Catching Ted Bundy was no easy feat. He was a master of manipulation, skilled in evasion, and always one step ahead. For years, police departments across multiple states struggled to connect the dots. Without a national database, crucial details slipped through the cracks. Bundy exploited this, constantly changing locations, killing in Washington, Utah, Colorado, and later, Florida. Investigators first suspected Bundy after reports of a man named Ted luring women at Lake Sammamish. A sketch was released, and multiple tips flooded in, including from his former girlfriend, who described eerie behaviors and unsettling habits. But despite suspicion, evidence was thin. Without DNA forensics, proving guilt was difficult. It was only after Bundy's reckless final spree at the Chi Omega sorority house in Florida, where he brutally attacked multiple women in a single night, that his downfall began. He was caught in a stolen car. This time, there would be no escape. In the 1970s, forensic science was still developing. Unlike today's DNA testing, investigators relied heavily on circumstantial evidence, witness accounts, and physical clues. One of the most crucial breakthroughs in the Bundy case came from bite mark analysis. During his attack on Lisa Levy, one of the Florida victims, Bundy had bitten her, leaving a distinctive dental imprint. This bite mark became the key forensic evidence prosecutors needed. A forensic odontologist compared Bundy's teeth impressions to the wounds, and it was a match. Though modern forensic experts debate the reliability of bite mark evidence, at the time it was a groundbreaking moment. It gave prosecutors what they needed, physical proof that tied Bundy to the crime. With overwhelming evidence, Bundy's days of deception were numbered. But how did the public react to the trial of a man many still saw as charming and intelligent? Fear gripped communities across multiple states. Women locked their doors, walked in groups, and looked over their shoulders, terrified of a killer who seemed to strike at random. But something strange happened. As much as Bundy was feared, he was also idolized. His charm, intelligence, and good looks created an eerie phenomenon. Women flocked to his trials, some even professing their love for him. Others wrote letters, convinced he was innocent. It was a disturbing paradox. How could someone so monstrous be seen as charismatic? Yet, even as some admired him, most saw Bundy for what he truly was, a ruthless predator. Ted Bundy's trial was the first nationally televised murder trial in United States history. Cameras captured his every move, his confident smirk, his theatrical self-representation, and his chilling outbursts. The media turned him into a spectacle. Newspapers ran stories about his intelligence, his former law school aspirations, even his supposed boyish charm. Some headlines seemed to downplay the horror of his crimes. Yet, as details of his brutality emerged, the public turned against him. The mask of civility cracked. By the time the trial concluded, even the most devoted doubters could no longer ignore the truth. Bundy was a monster. While Ted Bundy eventually confessed to his crimes, for years, law enforcement struggled to connect the dots. Before his capture, various theories circulated. Some believed multiple killers were at work, while others thought the disappearances were unrelated. Bundy was a suspect early on, but without solid forensic evidence, police hesitated. Some investigators even believed the killer might be someone posing as law enforcement or using fake badges to gain victims' trust. Even after his arrest, some questioned whether Bundy had acted alone. He once hinted that others might have been involved, though no evidence supported this claim. What remains debated to this day is the true extent of his crimes. Officially, Bundy admitted to 30 murders, but many believe the real number could be much higher, possibly over 100. Some victims have never been found. Their families are still waiting for answers, waiting for closure that may never come. Ted Bundy's trial was chaotic, unprecedented, and theatrical. He refused legal counsel, choosing to represent himself, a decision that allowed him to directly question witnesses, including police officers who had investigated his crimes. Bundy treated the courtroom like a stage, delivering grand speeches, flirting with reporters, and even proposing marriage to Carol Ann Boone in the middle of the trial. But no amount of charm could save him. The evidence was overwhelming. Witness testimonies, forensic analysis, and most damning of all, the bite mark found on Lisa Levy's body. On July 24, 1979, Bundy was convicted of capital murder. The sentence? Death by electric chair. Even then, Bundy tried to manipulate the system, delaying his execution with multiple appeals. He offered confessions in exchange for time, but the clock had run out. On January 24, 1989, justice was served. But Bundy's story did not end there. Even with Ted Bundy's execution, many questions remain unanswered. How many victims did he truly claim? Were there murders he never admitted to? Could there be victims whose families still do not know what happened to their loved ones? Some believe Bundy kept his final secrets to maintain control until the very end. Others think he deliberately misled investigators, enjoying the psychological game. One thing is certain: Bundy was not an anomaly. His crimes changed law enforcement forever, shaping how serial killers are investigated today. But even now, decades later, his case still haunts us and still leaves us wondering, what else did he hide? Bundy's case forever changed the way crimes are investigated. His ability to move between states undetected exposed flaws in law enforcement communication, eventually leading to the creation of the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, VICAP, a system designed to track serial offenders across jurisdictions. The media's role in sensationalizing crime also came under scrutiny. Bundy's charm blinded many, raising uncomfortable questions about society's fascination with killers. His trial set legal precedents, his escapes exposed security lapses, and his methods forced investigators to rethink behavioral profiling. Though he is gone, Bundy's shadow looms large, his name a permanent fixture in crime history. And now, we turn the mystery over to you. How did Bundy manage to escape from custody not once, but twice? Could a different turn of events have changed everything? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching Mysteries in Crime. As always, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay safe.